Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and to a video all about my career journey so far. I say so far because I'm only 26, but I get quite a lot of DMs on Instagram asking me how I got into the field of copywriting, and also more recently how I got my job working for Disney as a copywriter. We're gonna go way back to the beginning when I was just a tiny little child who, when I was 6 years old, wrote my first story, I guess. I had it in this Harry Potter book and it was 12 sides of A4 and I just wrote it out and I was so proud of it and I showed it to my teacher. I remember it really distinctly because she was like, it's a lovely story, but just remember that not all stories have to have happy endings. And then from there through to when I was like 16, all my stories involved very tragic endings and circumstances, and we owe it all to my year 2 teacher. So I mention this because pretty much from when I was about 6 years old, all I wanted to do was write. I wanted to be a novelist. Then when I got to secondary school, again, I was writing all the time, and I got my books kind of published, well, not published, they were printed through this online printing service and then bound so that I could give them to my friends and they all read them and gave me feedback. And basically I've always been a writer. I then applied to study English at university and I went to the University of Nottingham. My degree was originally English with creative writing. I signed up to be part of Her Campus, which is an international organisation, but it is based in America, and there are different chapters around the world for different universities or colleges, and it's basically an online blog where they feature writings from students. They cover any kind of topic. It's basically a blog, and I applied before I'd even started at university. I saw a post on Facebook to be a travel blogger for them, which meant I would do a blog every 2 weeks for them, which I did throughout my first year. Then for my second year, I actually got asked to become the head of social media, which meant alongside publishing a blog every 2 weeks, I would also coordinate all of the social platforms. So we had Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter. So this meant I was constantly writing outside of doing essays for my actual degree. Then in my final year, I actually became the editor of my chapter, which meant I was responsible for recruiting all of the new writers, for managing them, well, managing in the sense of I was making sure that they sent me their work on time, and also I had to upload it to the website and check for any typos and errors and stuff like that. So obviously writing was a big part of my university experience on top of doing my degree, which actually I didn't mention. So it was in my second year, second semester, and I was in one of my creative writing modules, and the way that the lecturer started the session was to basically ask, show of hands, who here would like to have a book or a collection of poetry published someday? And everyone's hands around me went right up, and I sat there and realised I don't think I want that anymore, which was really scary because, like I said, from when I was 6 years old, I was known as the person who wrote stories, and suddenly I had this realisation that I still love writing, but I didn't actually want to do it in a fictional sense anymore, and I didn't actually want to be a novelist. So I went to the head of the department and asked if I could switch my degree over from English with creative writing to just English for my final year. So I did my 3 years at university. I graduated with a first-class degree in English, and I was out into the world of work, except I wasn't, because we haven't mentioned something very, very important. In my second year of university, I applied for the Disney Cultural Exchange program, which, if you're not new to my channel, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's an opportunity for international students to go and live and work in Walt Disney World in Orlando. As someone who grew up going to the parks every few years with my family, I was so desperate to do this program. I actually found out about it when I was in Disney World holidaying with my family, and I was 16 at the time, so we had to wait a little while. My second year of university rolled around. I was finally eligible to apply through Yummy Jobs, which I will link down below for more information about that. I applied in my first semester, and just before Christmas I got told that I had been accepted. That moment basically has changed my life forever. In the summer of 2017, I then went out to Disney World with a whole bunch of new people who would quickly become my best friends, and I worked in Hollywood Studios as a merchandise cast member. If you don't know, cast member is what Disney World calls their employees, because you are part of the show of the theme parks. Merchandise was definitely a role most suited to me because I just love talking, and I probably say like 60% of the merchandise role is talking to people all the time, and then maybe like 30% of it is actually guest checkout, and then what are we up to? 10% would be like stocking, I guess. So Hollywood Studios was my location, but more specifically I was in the theatre district, which covers so much of Hollywood Studios. It was quite intimidating how many shops I was going to work in, so I covered I have said this a lot of times, so let's go. The 2 hub carts in front of the Chinese Theatre, the Frozen Fractals gift shop, the Indiana Jones gift shop and truck, the Star Tours Tatooine Traders shop, the Muppet shop, the Christmas shop. Have I got all of them? Nope, we had a One Man's Dream shop as well. RIP is gone. I think that's everything. Had the best summer of my life, but whilst I was out there, I also had a blog because it wouldn't be if she wasn't writing or documenting her experiences. So every couple weeks, I think, I tried to publish an article about what I was up to. It was a record for myself, but also other people, so maybe I could could help them out in their application process and to also see what the program was actually like. Then, spoiler alert, I went back and did it for a second summer after I graduated, and again I was in a merchandise role and I was placed in World of Disney in Disney Springs, but thankfully the merchandise role is globally trained, which means you can trade your shifts and work across the whole Disney World resort. So I got to wear a lot of fun costumes and really experience everything I could in another 3 months living and working at Disney World. And once again, I blogged my experience. I promise this is all related. So when I was in Disney World, like I said, the merchandise role involves talking to people a lot, specifically guests, and a lot of them would ask what I was going home to do when they found out that I was a university student and also that I just finished my 3-year degree. And at the time, I had an answer for them. I had secured an internship at a creative agency to be an intern copywriter. I was so excited because one of the clients they had was Disney, and a big part of why I got that internship was because of my blog and all the Disney articles I'd written about it. And they were like, this girl knows what she is talking about, and also she writes well and clearly has a passion for Disney and writing. So I had my plan, it was all going well. And then I basically got an email from the guy who was in charge of my internship. Bearing in mind it was only going to be for 3 months, I think, but he basically said they just lost a big client and they no longer had the budget to hire me, but he was going to reach out to other people in the industry and see if any other companies needed an intern. It was quite stressful because I was due to start in a week and a half and suddenly I had nothing. This guy was actually so helpful, and within a couple of days I had an interview set up with a different agency. I went up to London on a Wednesday. I went to the interview and met the guy, and again he talked about my blog and how he liked my style of writing, and within an hour I think I had an email through with a contract signing me up for the next 4 months, and I was due to start on Monday. So it was a very quick turnaround, but yeah, suddenly I was finding myself going from waving bubble wands and giving out free stickers to working a 9 to 5, well, 9 to 5:30 job, because no one works 9 to 5 anymore. But I was being paid for this internship, not very well, but I was being paid, which was nice because a lot of people don't pay their interns, which is really sucky. Because of how fast it all happened and also the fact that I was kind of just desperate for anything, I didn't really know what the company did. I just knew that I was hired as the intern copywriter. So I arrive on the first day, I'm really excited and ready to go, and basically I found out that the client I'll be working on is DHL, the shipping provider. Very exciting, very glamorous, and my task is basically to go through and localize and edit and improve a bunch of articles on their B2B blog. B2B is business to business. It wasn't the most exciting start to my career, but we ran with it. I was supposed to do this project for the whole 3 or 4 months I was at the agency, but I finished it in about a month, at which point the guy in charge of me there said, do you want to do some real writing? And I said, absolutely. So I got to start writing some new blogs from scratch. It was for DHL, but I was writing and it was getting published, and that's what I always wanted to do. Obviously the topic was not my forte, talking about how to ship goods across the world and checklists and guidelines and logistics and all of that. We made it work. Then I think it was in November, we were having a quiet day at work, and I pulled up my LinkedIn profile because I thought, oh, we'll just edit and update my work experience with what I've been doing so far at this job. But as I was doing it, I saw my boss, the senior copywriter, walk right past me, and he definitely saw what I was looking at on my computer, because the next day I get pulled into a meeting and they said, we don't want to lose you after your internship is up. Would you like to work for us full-time permanently? It was a bit of an overwhelming decision to make because my original internship, the one that had Disney and I was so excited for, they had promised that they would be able to take me on as an intern in January with the hopes of potentially getting a full-time job with them. But this internship had fallen through before, and I didn't really want to turn down a full-time guaranteed opportunity for a maybe and then be back at square one. So I spoke to my parents, my friends about it, and decided that I was going to accept my first job. I signed the contract. It was quite scary. Everyone has to get their start somewhere, and I'm always grateful to the agency for taking a chance on me and giving me plenty of opportunities and room to grow and also be creative, or as creative as I could be writing about a shipping provider. I always knew though when I signed the contract that I wasn't going to stay long term. It was fine, but it wasn't the most stimulating environment. There wasn't the most work to do. I've always been quite a fast worker, and to be told repeatedly to slow down is not the most motivational thing to hear. They weren't saying slow down because the work's not good enough. It was just slow down because you're making other people look bad who have been there longer than you and are more experienced than you. That's not really my problem. But so we got to like February, March, and I thought it's time to start looking for a different job. There had been some drama, and basically the guy who was in charge of me was made redundant very suddenly, and I had no mentor anymore, and it was just a bit of an unsettling situation. After that I was quite keen to leave. I applied for only like a handful of jobs, and I got an interview for Harrods. Obviously everyone knows Harrods. It's the world's most glamorous department store. It is an icon of London. I was quite intimidated at the thought of going from this small little agency to Harrods. So I'd send in a CV and a cover letter, and then once that was approved, I had to write a couple of product descriptions for the task, and then I was called in to interview at their studio in Bermondsey. Very intimidated again going into this space. I walk in and there's just like flashing everywhere because there's so many sets lined up. There's all these luxury clothes, all these photographers and stylists look super cool, and I'm just sitting at the lunch table with the head of the copy team, basically being asked about my writing experience, which was all going well. And then they asked me who are my favourite luxury brands, to which I said, oh, I don't really shop at luxury brands because I can't really afford them. And then they said, oh, you might not shop at them, but who are you, inspired by? What kind of looks are you liking on the runway this year? To which I said, I don't really know. At that point, I thought I should just see myself out, because primary focus of this role was fashion and copywriting. Majority of stuff on the Harrods website was clothes and fashion. And obviously I had no experience in fashion. I had a fair amount of experience writing because obviously it was a junior level role, so for that kind of entry requirement I was fine on the writing front. I just didn't know anything about clothes and luxury brands. But then one thing that kind of saved me, I think, was at the end of the interview they said, so tell us about Disney and your experience working there. Everyone knows Disney and a lot of people love Disney, so we had a real nice chat and discussion about that and my time working in Disney World, which kind of I think made me stand out. Then I had to go do a task and write about, I think it was like a Chloe bag and a Victoria Beckham coat. I did my best, but probably not going to be for me because I didn't really fit in with the environment. Bearing in mind this interview was at 5 PM, the next morning at 9 AM I get a call offering me the role, and that's how I ended up at Harrods. I feel like this video is really long already and I'm just super rambly, but like I said, I love to chat. It's why I got the merchandise role. So I started at Harrods at the end of April 2019 as a junior copywriter. I think junior copywriters at Harrods actually have the hardest role because you are writing up to 40 product descriptions a day, and those pieces of copy range from about 40 to 70 words. So whilst that's a pretty short chunk, you actually have to get a lot of information into that short chunk, and also you're very much under time pressure. Add to that the fact that you could be writing about chocolates and Christmas decorations in the morning, and then luxury ball gowns and suits and swimwear in the afternoon. You have to constantly recalibrate your brain and what you're thinking about and what you're writing about. It really is a crash course in all types of luxury goods and also writing under quite intense pressure. I remember at first being so overwhelmed and pretty much finishing on the dot at 5:30 every single day, and I didn't know how I was ever gonna get it all done. But you get into a rhythm, you get into a routine, you have certain phrases you fall back on, and within a few months I found myself in a very comfortable rhythm of loving my job every single day, going in, getting to write about really cool stuff. My manager there was amazing. I was only about a month in and I got given a bunch of Jellycat toys to write about. If you don't know what those are, I'll include some photos here, but I did some very creative copy for them, kind of different to what other people I think had done before me, and my manager saw them go live on the site and she put them into our group chat and was like, who has written these pieces of copy? To which I had to be like, oh, it was me. And from then on, combined with my Disney experience and them getting to know me on a personal level, I became the kind of go-to person for writing about toys and also children's wear. And then when we came to Christmas, which starts in June, I think, at Harrods, because you have to get all the stuff online in time for people to shop it, I was the go-to Christmas girl as well. So I really had those niches and didn't actually write about fashion that much. Obviously I had to because fashion was the majority of the stuff that we sold, but wherever possible I was given those kind of non-fashion items that were more aligned with my personal interests. I just really liked being playful with the copy, which I feel like you couldn't be so much with like the high fashion items. So I started in April 2019, and then in March of 2020 I was promoted to copywriter. So the copywriter role is different in that you actually mentor and train the juniors. So you only write about 20 product descriptions a day yourself, but then you'll edit the work of 2 juniors. So that's 80 pieces of copy that you'll sub on top of your own work. Obviously it's a really great stepping stone in the right direction of your career, kind of having direct reports. It's a role I was very keen to take on. Even in my first week when I was being trained, I was like, I want to do that next. So I was really excited to get offered the role. I went away to Pisa in March of 2020, right at the start of the month when things were starting to crumble. And then I came home and was told by the head of the studio to work from home the next day, just in case I picked anything up while I was away. Excuse me, it started to rain. I hope you can ignore that sound. But I didn't even get to start the role of copywriter in the studio before we all were told to work from home a few weeks later. So my first day in my new role I was so excited for was actually at home in Essex, because obviously the panini was taking over the world. So I went from having like a really fun work environment, getting to interact with people who I was genuinely friends with and the products in person, to just kind of seeing things on a screen and seeing a list of attributes like what it was made of and having to write about it. But I stayed with Harrods for another year and a half. It was a secure job and it was an easy job, and I'd become very comfortable in it at that point. But the following summer I was ready for a new opportunity, which is when I decided to apply for new things. And we're just going to jump over one tiny hiccup in my career because there was a month where I worked somewhere that wasn't great for me. We're not going to address it in this video too much, but I decided to leave very quickly and got an amazing new job at a travel company called Oliver's Travels. So I started with them in November of 2021 and I adored this job so much. I was their digital copywriter and content executive, which meant I was in charge of their travel blog, doing kind of like top 10 lists and suggestions and travel guides, which I loved doing. And then also I did their social media. So I did Facebook, some Instagram captions, I even made some reels towards the end. I did stuff for emails, for ads. It was a really varied role and I feel like I got a lot of really good experience by doing that. I have no complaints about my time there at all. I loved it so much. I was very set on staying there for a long time. I saw myself really progressing with the company and just being one of their, you know, long-standing members. But then life threw a curveball my way. So let's kind of throw back to that first internship I was supposed to do back in September of 2019. The guy I was going to work with and who basically arranged my second internship, we'd always stayed in contact on LinkedIn. He sent me a message one day. I was actually at the travel company's kind of quarterly drink celebrating. I had champagne in my hand and I get a message on LinkedIn saying, "This is your dream job, you must apply." I open it up and it is a LinkedIn post for a copywriter role at Disney, which has always been the ultimate aim. I saw it as the best way to combine my two passions. I love the Disney company, I worked for them in the parks, but I also love writing and always have seen myself going into that professionally. So this role came up. How could I refuse? Insert Preminger from Barbie. And suddenly the next day I was updating my CV, sorting out my portfolio, I was creating a cover letter, and I was emailing the head of design at Disney Plus, applying for the copywriter role. Pretty immediately after sending that off, I got given a task to complete, and then maybe an hour later I got asked to do an interview the following week on Zoom. This was all happening extremely fast considering I wasn't even looking to change jobs. I had the interview, found out that it was a freelance position, which kind of threw me a little bit because I thought it was going to be a full-time role, but they quickly explained that this is a full-time role. Like, you will be there in the office, regular hours, you'll get holiday, you'll get sick leave, you'll be the only copywriter. But the way that Disney do it, they have a certain budget for freelancers and a certain budget for full-time, so you still will be full-time, you just won't be considered permanent. So we had the interview, but it was more just a chat, to be honest. Because of it being a freelance role, it meant I didn't have to go through the intense vetting process that you do if you get a Disney permanent contract. This is also why it happened so quickly, because like I said, I saw the job ad on a Wednesday and the following Thursday evening I had a Zoom call with the head of design and he offered me the job, which I genuinely could not believe it. I went on a walk and played The Magic is Calling and cried, and then I called my mum and my boyfriend and my friend, and I just was in shock. Like, this is what I'd always wanted, but it seemed too soon. It didn't seem like I should be having my dream come true at 26. But when opportunity knocks, you've got to open the door. So I accepted the job. Had a very tricky conversation with my line manager at the travel company because I love the job so much and there was nothing wrong with it. There was just something better waiting for me and there was no way I could turn it down. And she actually said, "We always knew that when we lost you it would be to Disney, because we can tell you love this job, but Disney is where you're always going to end up." I'm sorry, the rain is really pouring down now, but I'm too far into this video to even consider reshooting, so it's gonna have to roll with it. I flew out to Disney World around a week and a half after I got offered the job. I got to celebrate there and get a cute little celebratory button, and then it was about a month later that I actually started at Disney in Hammersmith. I'll quickly go over what the role entails. But basically, as a Disney Plus copywriter, I do all the customer comms, so emails, push notifications, some social media copy, some ads, taglines, anything to do with words for Disney Plus for the EMEA region, which is Europe, the Middle East and Africa. It's all me. I was very intimidated when I found out I was going to be the only copywriter at first, because although I'd been the only copywriter at my previous role, it was for like a much smaller company than Disney Plus. But I'm pleased to say that at 2.5 months in, I think I'm handling it well. My freelance contract has been extended all the way through to the end of March. We are talking about the possibility of a permanent contract, who knows, but for now I'm just thrilled to be there. And the office is the coolest thing. Like, every day I walk in and it's the exact same entrance I walked in when I interviewed for my cultural exchange program back in 2016, and it's just such a pinch me moment that I went from applying for that job to work in the parks as effectively an intern to working for the company in a corporate setting, and It's crazy. People ask me a lot about like tips for applying. You do need a real balance of like professional experience, and then I would also say Disney experience doesn't hurt. When I was having my interview for the copywriter role, they basically said, why aren't you working for us now? Because at every job I've gone to, I've tried to find a way to kind of tie it back to Disney. So obviously at Harrods, I wrote all of the Disney copy for our Disney toys and products. And then when I went to my new job at the travel company, I wrote some blogs related to the Disney 50th anniversary and kind of built up that portfolio. Added to that, I worked for the company before in the parks. I clearly have a passion for the company and their storytelling, and it all has just come together pretty wonderfully and pretty magically, I will say. So I have rambled on for so long. I think I've been talking for about 45 minutes. Hopefully I've edited it down quite a lot, but that's my career journey so far. If you do have any more questions, please drop them down below. I know in this video I wasn't really giving like tips and advice for applying for jobs. I was just kind of taking you through my journey, but if you would like a follow-up video on that, please let me know. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more fun and everyday magic to come, because every day is pretty magical when you work for Disney, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!
Now I'm the king of the swingers, oh, the jungle VIP. I've reached the top and had to stop, and that's what's bothering me.